and sexual references from the outset.
To ask you a favor.
The Zeeie Show, episode 210, December 7th, 2013. Coming to you this time from the unused dining room, which antiquated houses, in my opinion, would still have. I guess back before this sort of architecture, there would have been a larger probably connection to this, known as a parlor. And of course that brings to mind parlor tricks.
Are you? Oh God, that must do your head in. You know, I'm an actress now. How long have
You
you
know,
been
I
an
was,
extra?
Sporting artist.
How long have you been doing that? Because I was it for 18 months, and then I was plucked out of the cesspool.
Pathological
No
liars
disrespect.
the other week, and something occurred to me
With Orlando Bloom.
about someone that I
I just did a scene with
have
him.
known
No, but,
in
yeah,
the
I mean,
past.
I've got an actual dialogue, not just a fuzzy blob in the background.
And I ran into him about
Again.
a couple of years ago, and he was all fired up about trying to, hook back up and everything. And he's one of those people, I don't know if you've ever had these type people in your life, but it's like you just kind of ended up hanging out with them, and you were never really as jazzed about the relationship as they were, but there may have been, in some cases, mutually beneficial reasons why, whatever relationship it was continued. About the last person I'm needing to be friends with or reconnect with is any kind of male. I don't particularly care for the males, and I certainly don't want to spend any more time around them than is necessary, which is reinforced to me every time I do spend any time around the fact that I am a fairy, but not in the old-fashioned term for a affinity for one's own sex, not in that way, but in the mythological so-called sense of fairies and pixies. I recorded quite a bit of material last evening on a road trip, but it didn't. The audio part, I tried playing with it, but it was not presentable. See, I have a couple of notes here from a Alan Watts. I am a huge consumer of the Pirate Bay, which reminds me, if the government can't even keep Pirate Bay from operating, what does that tell us about all this police state stuff? Well, one thing it tells me is maybe something without any power or basis in common law has to do everything it can to intimidate and appear as a raging tiger, because they in fact really do not have any of the rights and permissions to do what they're doing, and eventually happen to people and to things, and it might not be in the time frame that we would like it to be, but things have a way of working out. Zen is a way of life, not something learned or an object. I've come to understand that probably.
I need to ask you a
More in the last
favor.
year than at any time before. Because as some of you may know, I guess I'm just not always, or haven't always been the most charming or classy way of going about some of those things. But again, I wouldn't be me if I hadn't done those things. But what I meant by talking about that particular line, that Zen is a way of life, not something learned or an object, I would get so upset sometimes because of arguments and perceived arguments that I would have with people, that I loathed the very thought of even being around them. And then I kind of realized that that's a, at the least it's kind of a negative, self-fulfilling prophecy. And to the greatest extent that I can, I try to learn from mistakes and lessons. And when I see a cycle repeating itself, when I become aware of that, then I want to do everything I can to change that observation. It is not a doctrine, philosophy. It is more like a water. And relating to what I was just saying, I think I internalized some of those conflicts in a positive way, which is to say that the more I come to understand what I am and why I've learned the things that I've learned and why I am who I am, it became less important for me to try to make that point to people that are not, really have no interest in some of my observations and views, and I'm thinking more about real life situations than I am with anybody really online. But I guess we have little awakenings and epiphanies as we go, and it's been a big help to me in life and through some of these things that I've learned. to not be so concerned and kind of deluded into thinking that I'm going to arrive somewhere, and that when this circumstance happens, or when that circumstance happens, or if I could just move to such and such, then I will have kind of arrived. And it makes me think about where Paul said in the Bible that if I have, I don't know if he said roof over his head, but I'll throw that in, roof over your head and something to wear and something to eat. With these things, I should be content. Which, of course, is not to suggest that one shouldn't carry their weight or anything like that. I think the point on that is pretty obvious. I think it's more about things that we can be anxious about, and that we don't need to be anxious about. The only way to survive in water is to swim. That's relating back to this idea of more like water, or the only way to survive in water is to swim. So as we, become more at peace with ourselves and conditioned and attached to the things that don't matter, I think the better off we'll be. And that reminds me of how the system in some ways is, preparing very darkly for the eventual shift, which is already happening. The global paradigm shift involves so many multi-symmetrical levels and manifestations. It can't be summed up in a couple of seconds, but those of us who are of the truth and of somewhat pure heart and just accept as basic tenets of life that you don't harm another person, you don't put profit before people, you don't kill for sport, at least. Seems like there's an awful lot of activity on this dead-end street tonight, or maybe it's, I don't know. I meant to show you this. I don't know if the batteries still work. I got this for a bunch of money off one time when I worked at Walmart. Oh well, anyway, it has one of those little things that where when you would like turn it on, something it would say stuff.
Thanks for watching the Zeeie Show. See you next time.
I need to ask you a favor.